Welcome to the Wolf and the Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Curry, and we got Dr. John Devereaux. And today, we got a very special guest.
I'm excited for our guest that we have today. We both known this amazing woman for about 12 years. And I think one of the remarkable aspects of knowing someone for that long, and not just as an acquaintance, but really as a true friend, is that you're able to see firsthand their journey. So we also see the highs and the lows. And it's just great to see your friends out here winning in just about every aspect of their life. So with that, I'd like to introduce our viewers and our listeners to the city planner for Pompano Beach, Florida, founder and CEO of McCleod Planning and Development Professionals, and the founder of Pam on Purpose. We have Mrs. Pamela McCleod.
I am so excited to be a part of this podcast. So thank you both, Doctor and Wolf, for having me on here.
Right. And we're glad to have you. And the way that we always start off each of our episodes is with the quote of the week. And the quote of the week comes from none other than Mrs. Pamela McCleod. I was searching your Instagram to find a really good quote to use. And one that really stuck out to me was, purpose requires you to invest in yourself. So first off, how do you define purpose, and how does investing in yourself help you or anyone else to kind of fulfill their purpose?
Yeah, so that's hilarious that you use one of my quotes. That tickled me. But I would define purpose as a person operating in the thing that they were created and designed to do to change other people's lives. And I say other people's lives because I think we are all talented and trained in a sense to do certain things. But a lot of times we don't think about ourselves in the process. But purpose doesn't just involve other people, it involves us too. And so with Pam on Purpose, I have several strategies that I actually just kind of noted throughout my journey with my career path. And I wrote everything down. I have notes for like the past 6 years. And when I looked back over it, I said, this is an entire strategy to get from point A to Z almost. And so I documented my journey. And one of the key steps to purpose or stepping into your life's purpose is to invest in yourself. And so investing in yourself, I think, is one of the most important things. Before you can serve other people, before you can help anybody else, you have to learn to invest in yourself. And so how can you move into your purpose, or how can you move into your dream job, or whatever it is that you're setting your heart to? How can you move into that next dimension if you have not poured into you? And I heard this great man once say, you can't give what you don't have. If I don't have the tools that I need to pursue my own vision, I can't help somebody else get to theirs. That's just a principle.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Invest in yourself. I think most times, like we don't take the time or the energy to invest in ourselves, right? And I think that's the most important part, especially down this entrepreneur, type of pathway. But for you, has that what type of investment have you done in yourself to kind of get you to the journey that you are now?
So I think I didn't realize how much I have invested in myself until I took this on purpose journey for myself. And so the first thing, of course, was going to college, which, by the way, I had no idea what I was going to do after high school. And so it was a requirement at my high school to actually apply for a specific number of colleges before you graduate. So we had to apply whether we got in or not. And so I was shocked that I even got accepted into several colleges, because besides my sisters, we were all first generation college goers. And I didn't realize that I was investing in myself yet. I didn't realize it until I applied to grad school that I had to invest in myself, because I knew what I wanted to do. Not right away, because I did change my major a few times. But when I realized what I wanted to do, I said, I have to put in for myself. While I was in grad school, I would constantly look at the job descriptions of a planner. So I'm like, okay, it would say master's degree required or preferred. So I was like, okay, that was something that I could scratch off my list once I got that. All right, what else do I need? Knowledge of the planning field. Okay, I kind of already have that, but I'm gonna go and read on different things every day, even if it was like a 2 or 3 minute article. That was me still investing in myself. I think a lot of times we find investing in ourselves like, oh, I need $10,000 to start a business, or I need somebody to give me this money. But a lot of times it's, let me sit here for 5 minutes and read an article concerning the thing that I love. Let me keep my knowledge up to date so that I'm aware of what new technologies, what new concepts have entered into my field. That way, my knowledge is also um, where it needs to be. So by
Right.
the time I got to the job, I knew what was going on. So investing in yourself is important, not just on the financial aspect, but also on the knowledge aspect of things.
And I think that's one that a lot of people tend to negate is the human capital aspect, which is the embodiment of like the knowledge that you have, your education, your experiences. Those things tend to pay off in being prepared, as you were saying, Pam, for like a certain job or things like that. But I want to go back really quick to your definition of purpose because it just reminded me of something. And I think oftentimes people may think that a person might not be walking in their purpose if they aren't making a certain amount of money, or they can misconstrue that a person is walking in purpose if they've reached a certain level of income. Now, for me, when I think about purpose, it really
Mm.
ties back into what you stated about the impact that you make in the lives of others. So I'm sure we all know people who aren't millionaires, but we can see that they're walking in their purpose because they're using their gifts and their talents in a way that is impactful. So I think I
Yeah.
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly with like your definition of being on purpose. So with that, can you tell us a little bit more about your business, Pam on Purpose?
The reason why I created on purpose is because it's something that I struggle with. And what what greater person to write about something that I've already been through the struggle in that and find a way out of it. And so I wondered how many other people are dealing with this issue. So like for I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. So um I'm basically sharing my story, my pathway to my career, and not just the career, because I think we get caught up on that too. It's more of, like you said, John, how can we impact others? Because that's the ultimate goal. How can I influence and impact others with what I can do right now in my career? The first step, I'll give you guys the first step. The first step of on purpose, I call it the purpose walk. And the first strategy or the first step in the purpose walk is identity. And so I base it off this thought of your decisions are the result of who you think you are. If I believe I can be a city planner, my decisions from here forth is going to be based on me getting to that goal of being a city planner. If I believe I could never get to that point, my decisions will be based off of my insecurity on what I think I don't have, what I'm lacking, and I'm going to move in my decision making away from my purpose. If my decisions are a result of my purpose, I have to make sure that I'm confident in who I am. What am I capable of? I was doing a devotion a couple months ago, and this guy talked about your goals, how we all have short term goals, long term goals, and the ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is not just to stop at on purpose or NPDP. It is to move into a dimension to actually build cities myself, become a developer. But I can't get
Wow.
frustrated because I can't do that right now. What I'm doing with NPDB, I'm serving my clients to get to their vision. So if I sow good seeds, I'm going to harvest in that same area because I've helped several people get to their vision. Now it's my turn. I have an understanding of that, but I only have an understanding of that because I know my purpose. So where I am now, I'm okay with it because I'm purpose. People think it's a destination, but purpose is a journey. It's a never ending journey. And once you grasp that idea, that it's not like, oh, we made it, like that's it, it's always a moving part. Your purpose is always constantly another step. Okay, once I get here, because once I got to be a city planner, I was like, now what? Like it's always a now what? Like when I finished my master's, okay, now what? Because it's you'll never be satisfied with where you are. And if you are, you're kind of in a funky place because then you're content. And if you're content, you limit the amount of people that you can actually influence. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
think on
And
the
and
so,
video, I'm just gonna put some fire emojis all around Pam's face right now because she is
right.
killing it.
She's cooking. She's cooking. And Pam, the reason that you mentioned that, it kind of ties back to what John and I was talking about last week on, your purpose and your passion, kind of, forming your profession, right? And I think you made a great
Mhm.
point, is, kind of following that passion. So do you think that, what you've been doing now with the Pam on Purpose and everything, up until this point, has that been something that helped to kind of form your passion for your job? So can you just tell us a little bit about, the position that you hold, and is that something that has always been your passion, your purpose, to kind of get you there today?
Yeah, so a lot of my reason for wanting to be a city planner was because of I grew up on the south side of the city of Chicago. I will rep Chi-Town till the cows come home
There we go.
because it's to me it's just one of the best cities in the world. Um, but when I was younger, I loved going downtown. I loved seeing the skylines. I loved seeing transportation movement, people. There were just so many things I loved about just the big city. But the minute if you're from Chicago, you know the minute you leave downtown and you're headed south, things change very
Mm.
quickly. And so it's very noticeable. Things begin to look mundane and just kind of, you're wondering what's happening. And so I always wondered as a girl, why is there such a significant change when you cross a certain boundary in a city? And so when I went to college, I studied meteorology for the first couple of years, and I changed it and I started taking sociology classes, which introduced me to community development and what that was, and economic development. And I'll never forget, her name is Dr. Southers, Cynthia Southers, and she was the reason why I wanted to do planning. Well, I found out that actually what my passion was as a girl was actually called something, which was planning and community development. And so I took a class with her. The class is called Community Development, and we studied cities and how these things affect people's opportunities to be successful in their future. For example, if I'm in an area where I don't see people going to college, I see a lot of criminal activity. I see, a lot of just not any outlets for me to be successful. I'm affected by my environment. And so you kind of you get frustrated because you're like, man, this is America. Everybody deserves a chance of opportunity. But the thing is, some people unfortunately don't realize the opportunity they have because of the environment that they're in. And so that was my passion. I wanted to bring opportunities that people couldn't even imagine that they were capable of having to where exactly where they lived. Like I didn't want it to be you had to go all the way downtown to see, wow, I can see better for myself. I wanted it to be right in their backyard. Hence the reason why my husband and I want to be developers, because we can actually control what can be put at a specific place. On purpose is connected to that because once you know your passion, it drives your purpose. And so if my passion is to help people in that aspect, and I know that I have a gift in um, administration, or in this case planning, I'm going to use my gift, accompany it with my passion, and move toward my purpose. So my gift, my passion, I'm walking toward purpose. I have to know that I'm capable of everything that I'm doing to move toward that final goal, if that all
And
makes
it
sense.
really does. And I think it's very, very interesting when you look at the correlation between your Pam on Purpose business and your job as a city planner, because both seem to be very visionary roles where you have to look beyond what actually is and see what can become. So,
Mhm.
the same way that you help people realize
Yeah.
and walk in their purpose, you're helping a city to realize its potential and to be more efficient in the way that it reaches its potential. So I know you've described this as this job as your dream job, but what was the path like to get to the position that you're currently at?
So I left college, finished my master's degree, went for an internship for this city that I currently work for. I interned there for 7 months and hoping for a position to open because the principal planner that I worked under told me, hey, stay as long as you can. We'll pay you if you can stay here. However, we're going to have to cut your pay because a part of the internship was connected to my last course for my master's degree. So when that ended in the summer, she said, we can't pay you as much because technically your class is complete. And so I knew I was going to have to take a pay cut, but I didn't mind that because I was like, well, I love what I'm doing. I love where I am, but I need to be here as an employee. And when she told me that nothing was going to open up anytime soon, that the city was not looking for, any planners or zoning technicians, I was so discouraged. But she did tell me, she said, listen, because you work here, I know someone at, this particular city. I went to school with him. He's a director. I want you to go and apply for this city. Went, applied, got an interview, didn't get it. Another city, applied, got the interview, didn't get it. Another city, applied, got the interview, didn't get it. At this point, I was like, okay, I need to just get a job. I just need a job. So I started looking for things outside of my field, which I did not want to do, but I needed some money to be realistic. So I applied to a private school here, and it was for an admissions counselor. Got the job and absolutely hated it. Hated being there, hated what the job was. And it just had a lot to do with it just wasn't what I wanted to do. That's what it was. But I stayed there for 2 years, and I got discouraged and just stopped applying to planning jobs. And so I started to still, in the midst of that, was still keeping up on my knowledge about the planning field, and that was keeping the fire of the possibility that one day I still could do this. And so I stayed there for 2 years, kind of got fed up and said, you know what? I have to leave here. It was starting to feel a little toxic, the work environment. So I said, the first thing out, I'm just leaving because mentally I just started to not be in a good place. So I knew I just had to leave this place. I knew a friend, she was an underwriter for an insurance company. And she said, hey, we're just looking for like an assistant underwriting position. Would you be open to doing that until you can get to where you want to be? I said, I just need to get out of where I am. So got the job. And I remember this was November. I started and I told myself, and I said, I'm going to be here for 3 months and I'm going to walk into a city for my next job. And I made preparation for it. I wrote it down. I said, in 3 months, you're going to be at a city as a zoning tech or an assistant planner or a planner. I gave myself realistic options. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to be a planner because I knew my experience was very limited because I was only basing it off my graduate assistantship and the internship that I had with the city. Once I said, okay, let me keep my options open. I'm not going to just aim for planner. I'm going to look for assistant planner or zoning tech, which by the way is the same thing, but certain cities just name it. It's either planner one, associate planner, zoning tech, or assistant planner. They're all the same. And so long story short, 3 months, I got a call because I started applying. I got a call and I started at the city of Lauderdale Lakes. Absolutely thrilled as a zoning tech. So excited because the director interviewed a smaller city and she said, I know you don't have a lot of experience, but I like what you did at the internship. We're going to take a chance with you. And I knew I was grateful for her, but I knew it was because I had already set in motion something for myself. I wrote it down, which is another step in on doing the purpose walk for On Purpose was you have to write your vision down because when you set something in stone, you have proof that you're going to get there. And you remind yourself, wait a minute, let me go back to what I wrote down. Let me keep pushing toward this thing and not how I feel, because your feelings can change, your emotions can change, but what I wrote down is set in stone. So I went back to
And
that Reddit, got
before
the
you
job
go
at.
on, just because you're saying so many great things, and I'm going to forget this question if I don't ask it right now, because you said something very
Sure.
important, which was that you wrote it down and you set a time limit for yourself of that 3 months. Now, in the process within that 3 months, how does somebody keep themselves motivated to see that end goal when 3 months is still pretty far away? So within that time,
Yeah.
like, how do you keep yourself on that path of still putting in the work and trying to get to where you want to be at?
I stay connected to people who were in the field. And what that means is I didn't really know a lot of people in the field, but I found people on LinkedIn. I
Yeah.
was looking for people in the field on LinkedIn and sending them messages like, "Hey, I see you work for such and such. Are you offering internships? Can you tell me a little bit about the article that you just posted?" And I became a member of APA, which is the American Planning Association. And so I made sure that I had resources to keep my vision in front of me. Even if it was just a picture of something, if it was my master's degree, and say this was not for nothing, you have to keep the vision in front of you, because that's the only way you're going to move toward it. If you forget it, you're not going to make any movement. I kept reading, I kept reading articles, I kept reading my vision. I kept the vision in front of my eyes, because then if you constantly see something, it becomes who you are, and you have no choice but to make moves toward that thing. So yeah, 3 months was a long time, because there were days where I was like, I don't I'm just gonna stay here. I'm gonna get my insurance license. Yeah, I got a master's degree, but you know what? This is lucrative. Like if I stayed in, it was pretty lucrative. They were gonna open a position for me at that job. But let me tell you, and I'm gonna move into the spiritual aspect of this, because let me tell you how powerful this was. The day I put in my 2 week notice, on my last day of working at that insurance company, that Monday, my friend called and said they're closing the department.
Mm. Wow.
So you're talking about, not only was it's important for you to make moves toward your vision, because you don't know what's happening or what's moving and shaking behind you. So if I didn't make a move, I would have been without a job. So you got to constantly be making moves, because you don't know what's moving and shaking behind. You don't know what's coming. So if you stop and that thing behind you is still moving, it's going to catch you. So I have to constantly be moving. And like my bishop says, when you're, even if you're moving in the wrong direction, keep moving, because God can always steer you. But if you stop moving, he can't steer you anywhere, because you're stuck. You just stop. So
Mm-hmm.
when I got to the city of Lauderdale Lakes, I stayed there for 11 months. I had planned on moving up there, because I when I say I enjoyed every bit of that city, and honestly I didn't want to leave. It was a very hard decision, but I knew that position had opened up. So in between that time, what I forgot to mention, when I was at the school, I interviewed for the city of Pompano Beach 2 more times, for a zoning tech position and then a planning position. That's very important in that journey, because I think people we all get in our feelings when we hear no. So when I went back interview, and they told me we will always pull your application because you interned here. So you'll always have an opportunity to interview. So I had that advantage. So when I applied for the position, I interviewed, they told me no. Applied again a couple months later, interview, got another no. At that point, I was crushed. I'm like, okay, I didn't interview for this position twice. I don't want to go back to this city and interview. And then it was in front of the same people. I was like, can I at least get a new face? And they would be sitting in the same spot. And so I had this, I already had this image of me failing, or what I thought was failure, twice, because I've already interviewed. So when this position opened, I was so nervous, because I knew that I was going to have to face these same few people and give them my resume again. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it, because I knew I wanted to work at that city. I had my own reasons why, but I knew I wanted to work at that city. So at this point, remember, I have 11 months under my belt with this other city, doing things that most people won't do because it is a small city. So the benefit that I had was, yeah, I want to work for a bigger city, but man, this was pretty amazing because I got my hands on stuff that I know I can't get my hands on if it was like Fort Lauderdale or Miami. So long story short, interviewed, and the first thing that they told me after I was giving a little bit of introduction about myself, they said, "You seem very different. What have you done between the last two interviews to this interview?" Mind you, this is my third time interviewing. And I said, "You know what? I learned more about me and what I'm actually capable of. So even if I get a no here, I know I can get a yes somewhere else because I've prepared myself for a yes. And I know it's for a specific time and a specific reason why those no's were back then. Because at the job that I was working with the school, when I finished college, I was very timid, very shy, very low spoken because I was building my confidence and my courage at that time. And so the principal planner that I was working under for my internship, she told me, she said, "Listen, I'm gonna keep it real with you. In this field, you have to be assertive as a woman and as a planner because you're working with attorneys, you're working with engineers, you're working with the city manager's office, and they will chew you up if you don't know what you're doing and if you come off too soft. This is a male dominated field, not to be aggressive, but you have to be assertive." So I said, okay. And so I took that with me. And I told in my third interview, I let them know, if you give me a no, I'm okay with it because I've built myself enough that I know I'm going to get a yes somewhere else because I've taken the steps that I needed at this point. Long story short, got back into the city after my third interview. Being there for 9 months, a planner position opened. I'm going into an interview again because I'm not going to stop until I get the position that I want. So I'm in the city that I already desired to be in. Now I look at an opportunity I can move up. So I apply, interviewed again, and I let them know, I was like, you guys are sitting in the same seats every time I have this interview, and it's making me uncomfortable. And they're like, well, we can move around, And I was like, no. And they was like, Pamela, why do you keep interviewing for this position? You can go to any city, and we keep seeing you. And I said, because I set a goal for myself, and I know I can achieve it. And I'm relentless at this point because I know my purpose is at this place at a specific time. And so saying all that, having a phenomenal interview, I got another no. And I was like, now I didn't had enough at this point. So I stayed, and people kept saying, you should just go to another city. And I said, no, I really believe I'm called to this city. So let me tell you how this is my fifth time a position open. Now let me tell you how wonderful this was. When they opened the planner position that I have right now, they said, we're not going to make this position open to anyone that doesn't work within the city. This was an internal position. So at this point, I'm just walking into my blessing. That's how I felt. I'm walking into everything that I put in right now. And so, but I still had the interview. Now, if my interview was crappy, they had no problem not hiring me. They were blown away by the interview. And they said, we will be honored for you to be a planner for this city. So 5 interviews, me going from working at a job that I absolutely hated, discouraged, not confident, to building a business, this on-purpose business to say, no, you can do this. There are some steps that you have to take in between. You might have to take a different journey. You might have to do some different things like investing in yourself, identifying your capabilities and the things that you can do. But that doesn't mean because you have to try something new that you won't get to where you're supposed to be. And so my path to my purpose required me to do a lot of different things, have sleepless nights, spend money that I didn't have, but I'm where I want to be. and I just limit myself to being a city planner. Now I have my own firm, a planning firm. Not only that, I have a business where I can help other people get to their purpose. So I know that was a mouthful, but that was my pathway to.
You said a lot there, Pam, and a lot of it had to do with, your tenacity to kind of push through. Most times people think that, when they get that first no, like that's it, they throw the towel in, right? They don't keep pushing forward. You got 5 no's. Well, you got 4 no's until you got your one yes. And I think that's important, right? And like instilling that type of drive and stuff. Obviously, you had to build yourself up to that. Like you said, you kind of had to become a new Pam almost, right?
Yeah.
And with that being said, do you think that, I guess, like switching gears,
Wait, hold
is that
on,
something
before
that
you
you
switch
instill in
gears.
your household?
Hold on
Huh?
before you switch
Don't
gears. She said so many good things.
Go.
We need to. I got to unpack a few of these things.
Go. All right, yeah, go ahead,
'Cause
man.
I'm trying not to cut you off, Pam, because you are really dropping a lot of good knowledge that
Oh,
really
good.
we discussed even on our last episode. Like you're repeating some of the
Yeah,
same things almost verbatim. And one of the
Mm.
things, and Glenn already touched on it, was like, that tenacity or that drive to overcome that rejection. And we said on the last episode, a lot of times individuals get that rejection. Glenn talked about how he failed his real estate exam the
yeah,
first time. And
yeah,
I talked about how I got denied admittance to Western, my first time applying there.
Mm.
But what you said was you went back and had to kind of reinvent yourself because Glenn and I both know the old Pam. I could call it the
yeah.
old Pam, who was really
Yeah.
quiet, and like you said, you weren't really assertive as you are. But by doing that and developing yourself, it reminds me of this quote that says, and I pulled it up. It said, "Human beings' strongest drive is staying consistent with how we define ourselves." And you
Mm,
said you defined yourself as a city planner. So therefore, all the actions that you take are going to align with how am I going to become this city planner. And I mean, I just think that that's amazing that you were able to
yeah,
persevere through all of the adversity. And I just take my hat off to it because I mean that was just good.
Thank you.
yeah,
Man, I'm sorry, Glenn, to step on you, but I
yeah.
needed to go back. Like,
No,
and Pam,
no.
hopefully you
You know
don't
what? It's
mind as
it's
we're going forward
important.
if we cut you off a little bit because there's some things that
Please
that you're
cut me
saying that
off.
I need you to expound on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and I think Pam, man, it's so many things to unpack. I mean, we need 2-3 episodes to really kind of unpack a lot of that stuff that she was saying. But a lot of it does go back to like having that tenacity, right? That drive, that willingness to kind of push forward. And a lot of times you gotta kind of, if it doesn't exist in you, you gotta kind of make yourself that person. You gotta reinvent yourself, and I think that's like the most important part. And speaking of like reinventing yourself, right? And in life, in your job, your career, whatever, how important is that for you in your career as far as like branding, like reinventing yourself for that?
So I think that that goes back to investing in yourself. So before I could brand someone else's vision or business, I had to brand myself. I'm my own brand right now.
Hmm.
I'm betting on me, as my husband would say. And the only way that I can help build cities or build another person's vision is I have to build myself up. So I think even there were times where I just did not feel like listening to a podcast, or I didn't feel like reading about my field because I was frustrated, emotional, and all of these other things. You have to literally make yourself do something. What you decide to do with your purpose affects another person's destiny. Because, John, as a professor, you know that there's certain students that will only take the class because you're teaching it, because of the reputation that you hold. And same with you, going, you know that, okay, if I have these relationships and these people want to buy another property, they know they're going to call me because it's the integrity and the relationship that you have with them. So if we don't get it right, somebody's next opportunity, somebody's next door isn't going to be open because we decide to sit in our feelings and say, I don't want to, I don't want to move forward with my purpose.
And that reminds me of and two quick stories that I'll share really quick from my teaching experience. I had normally on the first day of school, or you always have everybody go around the room and introduce themselves. So this is back when I was teaching at Western. Was going around the room. This one black student, he raised his hand and he just stood up and started clapping, and it really off put me on the spot a little bit because he said he had never had a black professor, you know, his entire 4 years, because he was a senior. His entire 4 years, he said he never had a black professor, and he didn't
Wow.
think that that was possible because he's never seen it before, and that right there kind of let me know that I'm doing this because I enjoy doing it, but there's also something else to gain from here, you know, to once again show people that
Hmm.
it is possible. So there's this other story where I had a student, he grew up in a racist household, where his father imparted a lot of, you know, negative information about black people. So he's sitting in my classroom and it's like really messing with him mentally because he's like, all the stuff that I've learned growing up isn't lining up with what I'm seeing. So
Mm.
we had a conversation about it. And to this day, me and him are really good friends. And, you know, we stayed in contact. But you never know, like you said, Pam, how you're impacting somebody else when you're walking in what you're supposed to be doing.
You know, Pam made a great point of, you know, her following her purpose and it opening up the doors for other people to kind of follow their purpose. Like, so for something like that, is that something that you establish like in your household? Because you're following your purpose, right? You're building your own career. You're building, you know, your own company and things like that. Do you? I mean, has that been something that was like instilled in you growing up, like around family members, kind of seeing them kind of follow that same entrepreneur path?
My mom is a really very strong woman, and she's always told me, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. There's something great inside of you. Those are words that my mom constantly put in me. But to be honest with you, I didn't believe that. I'm like, she's just saying that because she's my mom and she has to and she loves me so much. But as I got older, I started to hear those words from my mom to say, you can do this. I'm proud of you, and you'd be like, yeah, okay. Like I see what that means today. Um, but to be doing what I'm doing now, to me, it shocks me to even see myself doing things that I'm doing now because that's not who I was. But you always move to who you are supposed to be and not who people think that you should be. And so one of my quotes is to have tunnel vision, not scrolling vision, because oftentimes we know we get on social media and we scroll like, oh, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur because that person's doing it and it look like they're killing it, so I'm gonna go ahead and try that. When you're not actually created to be an entrepreneur, you're meant to be a CEO of a company that was already built. You see what I'm saying? And so if we have tunnel vision, if we focus on the thing that we are created to do, and because purpose is not, and this is where I want to define the two. Purpose is not your career. Purpose is not your business. Purpose is not you getting your dream job. Those are gifts. I have a gift of planning and administration. I have a gift for speaking and writing, which I ran from those two things for a very long time. But those gifts that I was born with, I can use to get to my purpose, which purpose is always service. I define purpose as service. You are created to serve other people's vision. One of my goals when I become a millionaire is not, yeah, don't get me wrong. I love me some nice things. I really do. But a big portion of what I want to do is going back into the city that I was raised in, is going back into the high school that I attended, is going back into the college, going back and speaking to these young kids and saying, listen, don't let this place be your limit. Don't let this be the only possibility for you. You
Mm-hmm.
are greater than what you see right now. You're greater than, who people told you you should be. You have to get to the place of who you're supposed to be. How was I created? I can reach people that other people will not be able to reach, or you guys are going to reach people that I can never reach just because of who you guys are and what you do. And so that's important as an entrepreneur and as someone working to 9 to 5. Whatever you decide to do, if you are going to operate in purpose, you have to understand that you are a servant to others. You can't be selfish in your purpose. Your purpose should always involve other people. And if it doesn't, you have to go back to what you wrote down and say, does this serve people? Will this better someone else's life? Because if we can do that, if everybody was operating in purpose, the world would be such a different place right now.
So you discussed how you work your traditional 9 to 5 job, and then you also have two businesses that you own and operate. So how have you been able to balance being an entrepreneur and not only just working your 9 to 5, but thriving within your career? So how have you been able to balance the two, as well as having a very active home life, because you have three wonderful kids as well?
To be honest with you, because I'm already a very detailed and planned person, I have to plan my day. Like I have to organize how my day is going to go, or I won't get anything done. I am an early riser and I go to sleep very late. But I have to give credit to my husband, to be honest with you, because the calls or the meetings that I cannot take with MPDP, he takes them for me because we do have clients that only need the planning and development side. The so that's where those bigger projects come in because, for example, I have a client in North Carolina. Well, I won't even call him a client anymore. We're partners now, which is very exciting. And so he's looking to do a mixed use development. Mixed use development just means there's residential, there's commercial development on the bottom, residential on the top, or there's commercial around it with residential in the back. And so this is maybe a $4 million project, maybe a little bit more. And so he knows that I have to focus on those type of things rather than the other things. So I have help, which is such a wonderful thing because I don't know how to be doing this by myself, to be honest. So I have days where I work on Pam on Purpose, and I have days where I work on MPDP, depending on the time frames of the projects. But I have certain days where I do MPDP and certain days where I do on purpose. The 9 to 5 is priority because they're paying me straight off the bat. I mean, my clients are paying me too right off the bat, but I have a responsibility because with the 9 to 5, it has to be your first priority if that's what you're doing. And they make you agree to that too. So I don't have a choice. And so I know my hours. The beautiful thing about my city is that I work Monday through Thursday. So Friday, I know is an on purpose day, and I might cut that in half and say, okay, I'm going to wake up, do 2 hours on purpose, and the rest of the day I have to get through these meetings with my clients for MPDP. I do not work on Sundays because I believe that every entrepreneur and every person working a 9 to 5 should have a day of rest, mentally and physically, because you won't be any good. You won't be able to give your best you without a day of rest. I am big believer. I don't set appointments on Sundays. I didn't do anything. I enjoy my family. I reboot myself for the following week. You have to know your limits. You have to know when it's time for you to say no. We've said no to a lot of clients, and you look at it and say, dang, you're missing money. No, I'm gaining sanity because if I want this thing to grow any further, no is going to have to be a well-known answer to a lot of these projects because, and see, the cool thing about saying no is you can always refer to partnership. Like we have a couple that we just met that's doing marketing, and it's beautiful because the things that we don't have time doing to do, or if it's something that we just can't do at all, that's the importance of networking. Hey, I know somebody, and then you help other people's businesses at the same time. So it's not, I'm trying to get as many clients as I can. Hey, I know some really good quality people who do very quality work. I'm going to refer you over here. And so what does that do? You build partnership. You don't know what that's going to do later either. And the cool thing is now they're sending us clients. And we live in 2 different parts of the state of Florida. And so that's beautiful. So the importance of building relationships. So a no isn't a no to a client, it's a no to my services, but I have someone that you can refer to. So it works out, just not for MPDP, it works out for the next business owner to gain a new client as well. So it works out.
And we're not going to gloss over the fact that she said she's doing a $4 million project. I just wanted to bring that back up.
Yeah, yeah. We're not gonna touch on that, right?
One thing that I've always been curious about with people who are motivators, and I definitely consider you to be a motivator. You know, your Instagram and your Facebook is filled with just motivational quotes and videos. But for people who are constantly motivating others like yourself, what motivates you to keep doing what you're doing?
It's people, to be honest with you. It's people motivate me. I always look at people and say, I wonder if they're doing what they're supposed to do, because I've been there. I've been in that place where I knew I was not in a place where I was doing what I was called to do or destined to do. And so that moves me. And then on the planning side of things, my looking at the city of Chicago motivates me. I often look at the news or read articles about my hometown, because that's what fueled my passion in the first place. And it reminds me of why I wanted to do this in the first place. So my brother and my brother-in-law are officers. They're police officers in the city of Chicago. And so that in itself is a little like, oh my gosh, like, because you hear about all of the crime and the poverty in the cities, and you want to do something about it. And a lot of times we talk about it, but nobody is making any action. And we have to put our feet, our faith has to have feet. We can't stand there and say, oh yeah, it's gonna get better, but nobody's doing anything. And so that motivates me. I drive through certain communities where I live, and I analyze and say, well, what if they just had a sidewalk right here? What would that do for people's health in that community? It's little detailed things like that. What if there was a crosswalk right here? Maybe the kids can get to the park safely. Maybe if we added an extra park in this community, what would that do for someone, or just a family that lives in that community? You don't think that those little things matter, but they do, because it's always, to me, we think we have to do these big things, and it's usually just us stopping and saying a kind word to someone to say, hey, I really hope you have a good day. You don't know if they just lost a loved one. You don't know if they just lost their job. It becomes a very intimate and personal level of why you're doing what you're doing. I get residents in my 9 to 5 all the time that just say they just want to put up a fence, and it turns into a conversation of, I've had this house for 30 years, and my dad gave me this house, and he came from nothing, and it becomes this amazing story. And they just like, I just want to get a fence so that I can keep this property looking amazing, so that I can pass it down to my kids. And you're like, I'm making an impact on that level, that I can benefit you and your lineage to pass this piece of land down to your family, versus, oh, I'm just approving a fence. It becomes a lot deeper, like you were saying, John, earlier, about how that person, you know, came to you and he's like, I've never had a professor, a African American professor on both ends, when one's applauding and one is getting clarity. Like, that's amazing. And so we look at it as, I work in a 9 to 5, getting a paycheck and just doing my administrative duties, where really it's becoming me having a conversation with a resident and their story of how they got to this city and why they'll never leave this city. And so it's my job to make sure this city stays or grows where it is. And it becomes, I look at my position as being more important than what people may think it is. And so I think if you know the depth of your impact that you're making, not just I'm going to work, but today I'm about to change somebody's life, even if it's approving a permit, even if it's just talking to this attorney. Somebody told me, why do you work at the city? Your customer service skills are amazing. Let me tell you why. If I can tell you, I spent 2 years having one-on-one conversations with students that had no idea what they wanted to do, and how I had to welcome them with open arms, make them feel comfortable, have them open up to me, and have them explain to me, and then give them a positive response. That bettered my customer service skills and my ability to talk to people and not be afraid to give them an honest answer. That helped me build my customer service skills. And so when I get a person that's angry and acting crazy and says the city can't do da, 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 take a step back and say, I understand your issue and I understand your frustration. Let's find a solution for this problem together. I'm not against you, I'm working with you. Now they can take a deep breath and say, I have a different view on the city because of how you just served me. So now I don't mind doing more business with this city. So now you're giving this entire municipality a reputation based off your decision to solve a problem in a positive way. So I think when we know the depth of our influence, the depth of our impact, just little conversation, little tweaks like, well, I could have gave him the business versus, you know what? Let me speak in a more calm voice and let me assure him that his service is going to be perfect at this place. And if it's not perfect, it sure is going to be better than any other place that he's been. Because that's who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to influence it. So now when he does business at another city, he's going to think, oh, wait, I knew a planner back at the city of Pompano Beach because I kind of know what you guys are, the workload that you guys have. So let me take it easy on the next person. What does that do? It's a chain reaction. And so now you have people taking a step back, rethinking how their responses are going to be. And it becomes, you look at the bigger picture and you decide, okay, my impact is bigger than I can ever imagine. And that's where your purpose steps in. You have to remind yourself, I'm not here to just work. I'm here to make an impact, however that looks.
Once again, I mean, we could just like cut the podcast right there because
Man.
it's and Pam, you from your answers that you're giving, one, you're able to see how you've taken the little things out of your journey and you apply it daily. Like you just talked about, how your people skills were enhanced through one position that you did at the college. And I think a lot of times people tend to, and Glenn talked about this on the last episode, is that they feel like some people just don't find the value in things that they've done and also find the value in the no's that they received, as we talked about earlier. And
Yes.
I'm just really amazed at your ability to just really extrapolate a lot of that experience and knowledge from those, and then from those previous experiences, and then just apply it in your everyday life. That's just, it amazes me.
Yeah, you know what? I learned what that scripture means. Granted, that's why my logo has that Esther 14 at the bottom. You were created for such a time as this. When I got that last note for the planning position, I was like, man, I'm gonna be in this position for a while. But you know what? At least I was content until I got to my next level. It was a God move for me to be able to say I got a promotion in a pandemic when so many people are losing their jobs. I really feel like God just wanted that to be said. I just gave you a promotion in a pandemic. I really feel like, and we have to look at, wow, what if I had got that praying position the 9 months prior? But how much more is my message going to be even more powerful to say, circumstances will not define your next level? Meaning, this pandemic does not stop my purpose. My inability to get something done does not define my purpose. If I have this tunnel vision to where I'm going, it doesn't matter if it's a pandemic, it doesn't matter what it is. If I'm set, if my mind is set on something and I'm moving in all these steps, I'm investing in myself, I'm building my knowledge in something, I'm writing my vision, all of these things, then guess what? My harvest has no choice but to come, because what you put in is what you'll get out of it. I know I put in work. I know I put in time. I know I put in money. My harvest has to come to me.
No, yeah, no. You make valid point, and it's all about putting in that work. And like I said, John and I do speak about this all the time. It's about putting that work, putting in that time to kind of perfect your craft to get to the point that you are today. And certain things kind of shape the person that you are or the person that you're becoming. What are some keys that that you can kind of give to our audience that helped you out to get to where you are today?
Consistency. Some things take time. I'm not going to put a seed in the ground and expect my apple tomorrow. It just is not going to happen. But you have to understand the process. If I water this thing long enough, if I'm consistent in watering this thing and checking on it and making sure the soil is right, the tree is going to grow. That's just principle. It's going to grow. And so we have to appreciate the beauty of the growth. I can sit here and say, wow, I've seen the roots of this tree expand out. I've seen it just become this stem, and now I can start to see leaves grow. There's beauty in growth. And I think when we can understand what we can learn from the growth and see it as the process, because what good is it if we put in the work and we can gain it tomorrow? I mean, if things come that easy, you don't put it becomes less valuable. It really does become less valuable when you can enjoy the beauty. For example, your child, if I gave birth to a child today and she's 30 tomorrow, I can't build a relationship with that, because now you're already on your way out the house. I
Hmm.
haven't put in I haven't built you up. I haven't put in core values. I haven't established who you are. I haven't told you who you are. I haven't done all of these things versus I have seen you grow from an infant to a beautiful young lady. And I know I trust the things that I put inside of you. And because I've seen you grow into this beautiful young lady, I trust that everything that you're created to do is going to happen. It's the same with our purpose. If we can take one line of our vision and say, I want to be a city planner, and look at it, and you see yourself grow, and you're like, I can't believe I am this person. And so how effective is that? Because now you're going to look at that next shy person and say, do you know what's inside of you? Do you know what you're capable of doing? Do you know the people that you're going to impact? And they're like, me? Yes, you. I can relate to you because I've been there. And people want to know that you've been there. People want to know that they have someone to relate to. People want to know that, yeah, I majored in geography. What are you going to do with that? And I got a message not too long ago that a girl said, oh my goodness, I want to go into the planning field, and I majored in geography. And I just thankful that I ran into your page because now I know the possibilities for my life. What? And I got another message from a girl from Cornell University, and she said, "Do you know that you are the very first female planner that I see that has her own firm?" She was like, "I know that I can do that." So that's why I said our purpose is connected to somebody else's destiny. All they need to do is see you doing it, and now they can dream a little bit bigger because they see the possibility. And when you can see a possibility and you're aligned with your purpose, nothing can stop you. You can do anything at that point.
As you were telling your story about the kid and pouring in those core values and all that things and putting in the time, it reminds me of this story when I was little, and it just came to me like as you were talking. When I was about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old, my mom used to have me put on her jewelry, and she used to always say, "You got steady hands. You're gonna be a doctor." you know, and she would say that every single time, and I'm sitting there thinking like, I ain't gonna be no doctor, but she would always say that and repeat it over and over. 30 years, I mean, not 30 years, but yep, 27 years later, I am what she imparted it towards me. But it's just really amazing, like you said, when you focus on making sure that you're being an asset to other people, how you can help them to
Hmm.
achieve their goals and realize their potential. So, Pam, you've given us a lot of great information. I'm going to go back and listen to this over and over just so I can take some notes because you said a lot of great things. And what are some of the ways that our listeners and viewers can connect with you and, find out what their purpose is?
They can follow me on Instagram at Pam, the number two, Mac, MAC. And if you're interested in a business and planning services, then that would be mpdprofessionals.com. And also our official website at www.myonpurpose.com. And all the services will be listed on there. You can see my bio, my testimony of all of those great things. So yeah, that's myonpurpose.com.
And Pam, we definitely appreciate you today and joining us on this podcast. And we thank all the listeners for listening to this, because it's been an amazing episode. A lot of gems been dropped. And make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and comment below.
Once again, Pam, thank you a lot for your time. And this has been another episode of the Wolf and the Doctor podcast.